Welcome back, folks. Just before we begin, it's a fun idea if you comment with your location. Thanks a bunch. Please like and subscribe. Let's get cozy and start the session. I sit in my car, hands gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turn white. The house looms in front of me, dark and silent. But something feels off. There's a knot in my stomach that won't go away, a nagging voice in the back of my mind telling me that tonight is different. I try to shake it off, but the feeling is too strong. I've had this sense before, but never this intense, never this certain that something terrible is about to happen. I'm an ordinary man with an ordinary life, a good job, a beautiful wife, and a young son who means the world to me. I've always been the reliable one, the guy who keeps everything together, the husband who's never strayed, the father who's always there. But lately things have felt strained. My wife has been distant, her touch colder, her kisses more perfunctory. I've noticed, but I haven't wanted to admit that something might be wrong, until now. The bond with my son has always been strong, but even he has been acting strangely. Quiet, withdrawn, like he's holding something back. It's nothing I can put my finger on, just a subtle shift in the way he looks at me, like he's hiding a secret. And tonight, as I sit here, staring at the house we've called home for years, that sense of unease gnaws at me, refusing to be ignored. I finally force myself out of the car, the cool night air hitting my face like a slap. The driveway's empty, but that doesn't calm my nerves. I walk to the front door, my steps slow, deliberate. Inside, the house is still, too still, and the silence is deafening. I call out my wife's name, but there's no answer. My pulse quickens, fear creeping up my spine. Then I hear it. Soft footsteps behind me. I turn, and there's my son, his face pale, eyes wide with something that looks like terror. My heart drops into my stomach. "What's wrong?" I ask, trying to keep my voice steady. But he doesn't respond right away. Instead, he just stares at me. And then, without warning, he bursts into tears. "Dad, I didn't mean to. I saw something." He chokes out between sobs, and the dread I've been feeling all night solidifies into icy certainty. "What did you see?" I ask, my voice barely above a whisper. His words come out in a rush, each one like a hammer blow. "Mom, she was with someone. In your bedroom. I saw them, Dad." The room tilts, my vision blurring as his words sink in. The betrayal hits hard, but there's no time to process it. No time to think. I have to do something, anything. The life I thought I knew crumbles around me, and all that's left is rage and a cold, calculating need for revenge. The words hit me like a freight train. I can barely process what my son is saying. The image he's describing, my wife with another man in our bedroom, is too much. My chest tightens, and I feel like I can't breathe. My mind races, trying to make sense of it, but all I can see is red. Rage, betrayal, disgust. I look at my son, his tear-streaked face contorted in pain, and my heart breaks for him. He shouldn't have seen that. No child should ever have to see something like that. I pull him close, my arms shaking as I hold him. "It's okay," I whisper, though nothing feels okay. "We'll figure this out." My mind is a storm of emotions. Anger, confusion, heartbreak, all swirling together in a chaotic mess. I want to scream, to cry, to lash out, but I can't. Not with my son here. I have to keep it together, at least for him. But I don't know how long I can hold on. I tell my son to go to his room to try to get some sleep. He nods, his eyes wide and fearful, and I watch him disappear down the hallway. The house is too quiet now, the silence heavy and oppressive. I stand in the middle of the living room, unsure of what to do next. My thoughts are a jumbled mess, 1,000 different possibilities racing through my mind. But one thing is clear. I need to confront her. I head upstairs, each step feeling like a lifetime. My heart pounds in my chest, a relentless drumbeat that echoes in my ears. When I reach the bedroom, the door is slightly ajar. I push it open, and there she is, sitting on the bed, her back to me. She's on her phone, completely oblivious to what's about to happen. Who is he? The words come out harsher than I intended, but I can't help it. The anger is bubbling to the surface, and I'm struggling to keep it under control. She turns around startled, and I see the guilt flash across her face before she quickly masks it. "What are you talking about?" she asks, feigning innocence. But I'm not in the mood for games. "Don't lie to me," I snap, my voice low and dangerous. "I know. Our son saw you with him." Her eyes widen, and for a moment I see fear. But then, just as quickly, she recovers, her expression hardening. "You don't know what you're talking about," she says, standing up, her voice steady and cold. "He's just a kid. He doesn't understand what he saw." The way she brushes off our son's pain ignites something in me, something dark and primal. I step closer, my fists clenched at my sides. "Don't you dare try to turn this around," I growl. "I want the truth. Now." She stares at me, and for a moment, I think she might break. But then she straightens her shoulders, her gaze defiant. "There's nothing to tell," she says, her voice icy. "You're being paranoid." Her words hit me like a slap in the face. Paranoid? After everything? I feel my grip on reality slipping. I know what I heard, what my son saw. But she's good. Too good at twisting things, making me doubt myself. A part of me wants to believe her, to believe that this is all just a horrible mistake. But deep down, I know it's not. I can't take it anymore. I need proof. I'm something concrete that she can't deny. So I start digging. I go through her phone when she's in the shower, check her emails, her social media, but she's careful, leaving no obvious clues. It only makes me more desperate, more determined to find the truth. Days turn into nights and I'm barely sleeping. I can't focus at work, can't think about anything other than her betrayal. Every time I see her, I'm consumed by a mix of anger and sorrow. How could she do this to us? To our son? The questions eat away at me, driving me to the brink of madness. I start following her, watching her every move. I know it's wrong, that it's crossing a line, but I don't care. I need to know who he is, where he's from, what kind of man thinks he can invade my life and take what's mine. I'm careful, making sure she doesn't notice. But the more I watch, the more elusive the truth becomes. She's clever, covering her tracks, never letting her guard down. It only fuels my obsession, pushing me deeper into the abyss. One night, after another fruitless search through her things, I'm ready to give up. I sit in the dark, the house silent around me, and I feel like I'm losing my grip on reality. Maybe she's right. Maybe I am paranoid. Maybe I'm imagining things that aren't there. But then, just as I'm about to give in to the despair, I find it. A small, almost insignificant detail, a receipt tucked into the back of her wallet. It's for a hotel room, dated just a few weeks ago. My heart stops as I stare at it, the truth finally sinking in. This is it, the proof I've been searching for. I confront her again, this time with the receipt in hand. She tries to deny it at first, but the evidence is undeniable. I watch as the lies crumble, as the facade she's been hiding behind shatters. She finally admits it. She's been seeing someone else, sneaking around behind my back. But she doesn't apologize, doesn't beg for forgiveness. Instead, she looks at me with something like contempt, as if I'm the one who's done something wrong. The realization hits me like a punch to the gut. She doesn't care. She never did. The woman I thought I knew, the woman I loved, is gone. In her place is a stranger, someone who's capable of tearing our family apart without a second thought. The rage returns, stronger this time, more focused. I can't let this go. I won't let her get away with it. I need to know who this man is, to confront him, to make him pay for what he's done. I'm not thinking clearly anymore. All I can see is revenge. I continue my search, this time with a renewed sense of purpose. I dig deeper, looking for any scrap of information that might lead me to him. It takes time, but eventually I find what I'm looking for: a name, a face. The man who's been sleeping with my wife. The man who's ruined my life. I start tracking him, learning his habits, his routines. He's careful, but not careful enough. I follow him to work, to the gym, to the places he thinks are safe. But he has no idea I'm watching, no idea that his every move is being scrutinized. I become obsessed, spending every waking moment plotting my revenge. But it's not enough to just confront him. I need to hurt him, to make him feel the pain I've been living with since the moment my son told me the truth. I want him to suffer, to know that he can't just walk away from this unscathed. One night I find his car parked outside a bar. It's late, and the street is deserted. I stand there staring at it, the rage boiling inside me. This is the man who destroyed my family, who took everything from me. I can't let him get away with it. I won't. Without thinking, I grab the can of gasoline I'd stashed in the trunk of my car. I douse his car, the smell of gasoline filling the air, mixing with the stench of my own hatred. My hands are shaking, my heart pounding in my chest. This isn't who I am. This isn't what I do. But I can't stop now. I've come too far. I light the match, and in that moment, everything changes. The flames roar to life, engulfing the car, turning it into a blazing inferno. I watch as the fire consumes it, as the heat scorches my face. There's no turning back now. I've crossed a line, and there's no going back. As I stand there watching the car burn, I feel a strange sense of satisfaction. The fire is more than just a symbol of my rage. It's a cleansing, a purging of everything that's been poisoning my life. But as the flames die down, that satisfaction is quickly replaced by something darker, something colder. I've destroyed his car, but I haven't destroyed him. And as I walk away from the scene, the embers still glowing in the darkness, I know that this is only the beginning. The real fight is yet to come, and I'm ready for it. I'll stop at nothing to take back what's mine, no matter the cost. I thought destroying his car would be enough. I thought watching the flames consume something he valued would satisfy the rage boiling inside me, but it didn't. The fire only stoked something darker, something I can't control. I should have felt regret, maybe even guilt, but all I felt was the cold emptiness that comes from knowing this was only the beginning. The act of destruction left me craving more. The next day, I watched the news obsessively, waiting for any mention of the burned car. But there's nothing, just the usual reports of crime, traffic, and the weather. He hasn't reported it. I know he must suspect something, but he's keeping quiet, which only fuels my determination. I have to be more careful now. He knows I'm out there, and he'll be watching. But I'm not done. Not by a long shot. I start tracking him again, this time with more precision, more caution. I've learned his routines, when he leaves for work, where he goes afterward, who he meets. He's predictable, a creature of habit, and that's his weakness. But there's something off about him. He's not just some random guy who got involved with my wife. There's more to him. I can feel it. One night after following him to a seedy bar on the outskirts of town, I finally see it. He's not alone. He's meeting someone, a man who looks even more dangerous than he does. They talk in hushed tones, their eyes darting around the room, as if they're afraid of being watched. I'm careful, keeping my distance, but I catch snippets of their conversation. They're discussing money, something about a deal going south. My stomach tightens. This isn't just some affair. He's involved in something bigger, something far more dangerous than I anticipated. I follow them out of the bar, keeping to the shadows. They're heading to a warehouse, the kind of place where bad things happen. My heart pounds in my chest, but I can't turn back now. I have to know who this guy is and what he's involved in. The deeper I go, the more I realize how much trouble I'm in. But I don't care. I'm too far gone. Inside the warehouse, I find a hiding spot where I can watch them without being seen. They're meeting with more men, exchanging packages that I can only assume are drugs or weapons. My mind races, piecing together the puzzle. He's not just some guy. He's a criminal, and my wife got herself tangled up in his web. The realization makes my blood run cold. If he finds out I'm onto him, he won't just come after me, he'll come after my family. I should leave, go to the police, but I can't. I need to confront him, to make him pay for what he's done. I've already destroyed his car, but that was just a warning. Now I need to destroy him. The next few days are a blur. I follow him everywhere, watching his every move, waiting for the perfect moment. But he's always surrounded by his goons, always protected. I can't get close enough. My frustration builds, turning into a dangerous obsession. I start neglecting everything else. My job, my son, even my own safety. Nothing matters except getting to him. Then one night I catch a break. He leaves the warehouse alone, heading to a hotel in the middle of nowhere. It's the same hotel where he and my wife met, the one I found the receipt for. My hands shake as I follow him, the anger and adrenaline mixing into a toxic cocktail that clouds my judgment. He checks into a room and I wait, watching from my car as the minutes tick by. This is it, my chance. I know I should call the police, but I can't. I need to do this myself. I need to end this, once and for all. I force myself to breathe, to stay calm as I approach his room. The door is slightly ajar, and I can hear the sound of running water. He's in the shower. Perfect. I slip inside, my heart pounding in my chest. The room is dimly lit, and I can see his clothes thrown haphazardly on the bed. I move silently, my mind racing with what I'm about to do. I pick up a bottle of champagne from the minibar, the glass cool and solid in my hand. It's heavy enough, perfect for what I have in mind. My pulse quickens as I step toward the bathroom, the sound of the water drowning out my footsteps. I'm close now, close enough to feel the heat from the shower. I take one last breath, steadying myself and push the door open. He's standing there, his back to me, oblivious to the danger behind him. My grip tightens on the bottle, and I raise it, ready to strike. But just as I'm about to bring it down, he turns, his eyes meeting mine. For a split second, we just stare at each other, the realization hitting him like a freight train. Then, without warning, he lunges at me, catching me off guard. The bottle slips from my hand, crashing to the floor as we grapple. He's stronger than I expected, his hands like iron as he pushes me against the wall. "You're dead, you know that," he hisses, his face inches from mine. I can smell the alcohol on his breath, the rage in his eyes. "You've been following me. You think I didn't notice?" My mind races, but I'm trapped, unable to move. His grip tightens, cutting off my air. I can feel the world closing in, the edges of my vision going dark. This is it. I'm going to die here, in this filthy hotel room, at the hands of the man who destroyed my life. But then, in a surge of desperation, I manage to bring my knee up, hitting him hard in the groin. He lets out a grunt of pain, his grip loosening just enough for me to shove him away. I stumble back, gasping for air, but he's already recovered, his eyes blazing with fury. I grab the nearest thing I can find, a lamp, and swing it at him. It connects with his head, the sound of the impact sickeningly loud in the small room. He staggers, blood streaming down his face, but he's not done yet. He charges at me again, and we crash into the bed, fists flying, each of us fighting for our lives. I don't know how long it lasts, seconds, minutes, hours, but it feels like an eternity. We're both battered and bloody, our breaths coming in ragged gasps, but I'm not giving up. I can't. Not after everything he's done. Finally, in one last burst of strength, I manage to pin him down, my hands around his throat. I squeeze, watching as the life drains from his eyes, his struggles growing weaker with each passing second. It's only when he goes completely still that I realize what I've done. I collapse to the floor, my body trembling with exhaustion and adrenaline. He's dead. I've killed him. The realization hits me like a ton of bricks, but there's no time to process it. I need to get out of here, to disappear before anyone finds out what happened. I stagger to my feet, my mind racing. I need to clean up, to make it look like an accident, but I can barely think straight. The room spins around me and I grab onto the wall to steady myself. I have to move. Now. But as I turn to leave, I catch sight of his phone on the bedside table. The screen cracked from the struggle. My curiosity gets the better of me, and I pick it up, my fingers shaking as I unlock it. I scroll through his messages, looking for anything that might give me a clue about who he really was. And then I find it, a series of texts between him and my wife, discussing their plans, their future together. My blood boils as I read the words, the bile rising in my throat. They were planning to run away, to leave me and my son behind, to start a new life together. The betrayal cuts deeper than any knife. I smash the phone against the wall, the screen shattering into 1,000 pieces. I've done what I came here to do, but it doesn't feel like a victory. I've lost everything. My wife, my family, my soul. And now there's no going back. I stumble out of the hotel, the weight of what I've done pressing down on me like 1,000 pounds. I don't know where to go, what to do next. All I know is that I'm in too deep, and the darkness is closing in. I don't know how I make it home. My mind is a blur, my hands shaking as I grip the steering wheel. The streets are dark, empty, mirroring the void inside me. The image of his lifeless eyes haunts me, playing over and over in my head. I've crossed a line I never thought I would. There's no going back now. When I finally pull into the driveway, the house is silent, all the lights off except for the faint glow from the living room. My son must be asleep, and my wife, I don't know. I sit in the car for a moment, trying to gather myself, but the weight of what I've done presses down on me, suffocating. I force myself out of the car, each step heavier than the last. Inside, the air is thick with tension. I can feel it, like a living thing, wrapping itself around me, tightening its grip. I hear a noise from the kitchen, soft footsteps, the rustling of papers. I move quietly, not wanting to disturb the fragile peace that hangs in the air. But when I turn the corner, I see her standing there, her back to me, her phone in hand. She doesn't notice me at first, too engrossed in whatever she's reading, but then she senses my presence, her body tensing as she turns around. Our eyes meet, and I see the flicker of fear in hers. She knows something's wrong. She can see it in my face, feel it in the air between us. "What happened?" she asks, her voice trembling slightly. I don't answer right away, my mind racing as I try to figure out what to say. How do I explain this? How do I tell her what I've done, what I've become? I can't. The words stick in my throat, choking me. She takes a step closer, her eyes searching mine. "What did you do?" Her question hangs in the air, heavy with accusation. I see the doubt in her eyes, the suspicion, and I realize in that moment that she doesn't trust me. She hasn't for a long time. Maybe she never did. "I handled it," I say finally, my voice cold, distant. "He won't be a problem anymore." She stares at me, her eyes widening in disbelief. "What does that mean? What did you do?" I can't tell her the truth. I can't let her see the darkness that's taken hold of me, the monster I've become. So I lie. I scared him off. He won't come near us again. She doesn't believe me. I can see it in her face, in the way she takes a step back, putting distance between us. She's afraid, not just of him, but of me. The realization hits me like a punch to the gut, but there's no time to dwell on it. Not now. She opens her mouth to say something, but then she stops, her eyes narrowing as she looks at me. Really looks at me. "There's blood on your shirt." I glance down, and sure enough, there it is. A dark stain spreading across the fabric, a stark reminder of what I've done. I should have cleaned up better, should have thought this through, but it's too late now. The damage is done. "I got into a fight," I say, trying to keep my voice steady, to sound convincing. "It's nothing." She doesn't respond, just stares at me with those cold, calculating eyes, and I know in that moment that she's not going to let this go. She's going to keep digging, keep pushing, until she finds out the truth. And when she does, I don't know what will happen. but it won't be good. Where is he? She asks, her voice barely above a whisper. I told you, he's gone. I snap, the anger bubbling to the surface. Why can't you just trust me? Because you're lying, she says, her voice sharp, cutting through the tension like a knife. I can see it in your eyes. You're hiding something. I take a step closer, my fists clenching at my sides. You want the truth? Fine. I took care of him. I made sure he won't ever hurt us again. She recoils, her eyes widening in shock. What do you mean? What did you do? I did what I had to do, I say, my voice low and menacing. I protected our family. Isn't that what you wanted? Her face pales and she takes another step back, her hand covering her mouth. Oh my God, you killed him. The words hang in the air, heavy and suffocating. I don't deny it. I can't. The truth is out now, and there's no taking it back. She stares at me, her eyes filled with a mix of fear and disgust. You're a monster. Her words cut deep, but I don't let it show. I can't afford to show weakness, not now. I have to stay strong, stay in control. But inside I'm crumbling, the weight of my actions crushing me. What was I supposed to do? I shout, my voice echoing through the empty house. Let him destroy everything? Let him take you away from me? I did what I had to do. Tears fill her eyes and she shakes her head, disbelief etched on her face. This isn't you. This isn't the man I married. I take a step closer, desperation creeping into my voice. I did it for you, for us, to protect what we have. She backs away, her voice trembling. But at what cost? You've ruined everything. You've become someone I don't even recognize. Her words hit me like a sledgehammer, and I feel the anger draining away, leaving behind only emptiness. She's right. I've become someone else, someone darker, someone I never wanted to be. But it's too late now. There's no going back. We can fix this, I say, my voice barely above a whisper. We can make it right. She looks at me with those cold, distant eyes, and I know in that moment that it's over. There's no fixing this, no making it right. The damage is done, and there's no coming back from it. She turns away, her shoulders slumped in defeat. I'm leaving, she says, her voice flat, emotionless. I can't do this anymore. Panic grips me, tightening its hold around my chest. You can't leave. We can work this out. She doesn't look at me, doesn't respond. She just walks away, her footsteps echoing through the empty house, each one a nail in the coffin of our marriage. I stand there frozen as the sound of the front door closing echoes in my ears. She's gone, and I'm alone, left to face the wreckage of my life, the consequences of my actions. The darkness closes in, suffocating, and I realize with a sickening sense of finality that I've lost everything. But it's not over yet. The phone rings, jarring me out of my thoughts. I answer it, my heart pounding in my chest. It's a voice I don't recognize, cold and menacing. You think this is over? The voice says, a low growl that sends a shiver down my spine. You think you can just walk away from this? My blood runs cold. He had friends, connections. I should have known. I should have seen this coming. You made a mistake, the voice continues. And now you're going to pay for it. The line goes dead, and I'm left standing there, the weight of what's coming crashing down on me. They're coming for me, and this time, they won't stop until I'm dead. I hang up the phone, my mind racing. I need to prepare, to protect myself, to fight back. But I'm tired, so tired. The darkness is closing in, and I don't know if I have the strength to fight it off. I sink to the floor, my head in my hands, the reality of my situation finally sinking in. I've destroyed everything, my marriage, my life, my soul, and now I'm going to pay the price. But as I sit there, the fear slowly giving way to something else, something darker, more primal, I realize that I'm not done yet. I still have fight left in me. I still have a chance to take back control, to go down swinging. The rage starts to build again, the fire in my gut reigniting. They want to come after me? Let them. I'll be ready. I'll make them regret it. I push myself to my feet, the adrenaline surging through my veins. I'm not the man I used to be. I'm something else now, something dangerous. And I won't go down without a fight. As I prepare for what's coming, the darkness no longer feels so suffocating. It feels like an old friend, familiar and comforting. I've embraced it, let it consume me, and now I'll use it to destroy anyone who tries to take what's mine. I'm ready. Let them come. With the lover out of the picture, I try to refocus on my wife. The storm inside me hasn't settled. If anything, it's become more turbulent. But I need answers. I need to understand why she betrayed me, why she ripped our family apart. Yet even as I tell myself that I'm seeking closure, I know deep down that it's too late for that. The damage is already done. I walk into the house and she's there, sitting on the couch with her head in her hands. She's been crying, and I can see the exhaustion in the slump of her shoulders. When she hears me, she looks up, her eyes red and swollen. For a moment, we just stare at each other, the silence heavy between us. The distance that's grown over the last few weeks feels like an insurmountable chasm, and I don't know how to bridge it. I'm not even sure I want to. You need to tell me the truth, I say, my voice harsher than I intend. All of it. She flinches at the tone, but she nods, wiping away a tear. I will. I'll tell you everything. But please just listen. I sit down across from her, my hands clenched into fists on my knees. I'm trying to stay calm, trying to keep my anger in check, but it's a losing battle. I want to lash out, to scream at her, to make her feel even a fraction of the pain she's caused me. But I bite my tongue and force myself to listen. I never wanted it to go this far, she begins, her voice shaky. At first it was just, I don't even know, a distraction maybe, a way to feel something again. Her words are like a knife twisting in my gut, but I don't interrupt. I can see she's struggling, that every word is costing her something. I want to believe that she's genuinely sorry, but the betrayal is still too fresh, too raw. He was different, she continues. Dangerous, yes, but he made me feel alive in a way I hadn't in years. It was stupid. I know that now. But I was lost, and he was there. I clench my jaw, the rage bubbling up again. And what about me? What about our son? Didn't we matter? Her eyes fill with tears again, and she shakes her head. Of course you did. You do. But I was stupid. Selfish. I let things spiral out of control, and before I knew it, I was in too deep. He wasn't just some fling. He was involved in things I didn't understand until it was too late. I leaned forward, my voice low and dangerous. You put our family in danger because you wanted a thrill? Because you were bored? She recoils, guilt etched into every line of her face. I never meant for it to go this far. I never wanted to hurt you or our son. But I couldn't get out. He wouldn't let me. I shake my head, the disbelief clear in my voice. And you never thought to come to me? To tell me the truth? I could have helped you. We could have dealt with it together. She lets out a bitter laugh, tears streaming down her face. I was ashamed of what I'd done, of the mess I'd made. I didn't want to drag you into it. I thought I could fix it myself, but I was wrong. I was so wrong. The room is silent for a long time, the only sound her quiet sobs. I should feel some sense of satisfaction at her confession, some sense of closure, but all I feel is emptiness. The woman I loved, the woman I trusted, has betrayed me in the worst possible way. And there's no going back from that. Finally, I stand up, the decision already made in my mind. I'm leaving, I say, my voice flat, emotionless. I need to get out of here. She looks up at me, panic flashing in her eyes. Please don't go. We can work this out. We can fix it. I shake my head, the finality in my voice leaving no room for argument. There's nothing left to fix. She stands up, reaching for me, but I step back, the distance between us now a chasm too wide to cross. Please, she begs, her voice breaking. Don't do this. But I'm already gone. I turn and walk out the door, the sound of her sobs echoing behind me. I don't look back. I can't. If I do, I'll break. And I can't afford to break. Not now. I drive aimlessly for a while, the weight of everything pressing down on me. My marriage is over. My life, as I knew it, is over. The realization is like a punch to the gut, leaving me breathless and reeling. I thought I could handle this, that I could take control and fix what was broken. But all I've done is destroy everything. I pull over to the side of the road, my hands shaking. I don't know what to do, where to go. I'm lost, adrift in a sea of anger and despair. The darkness that's been building inside me threatens to consume me, and I don't know how to stop it. My phone rings, jolting me out of my thoughts. I don't recognize the number, but I answer it anyway, hoping for some distraction, something to pull me out of this spiral. Is this the husband? A cold, unfamiliar voice asks. My blood runs cold, and I grip the phone tighter. Who is this? You've made some powerful enemies, the voice says, the menace clear, and they're coming for you. I suggest you get your affairs in order. The line goes dead, and I'm left staring at the phone, the full weight of what's happening crashing down on me. I've gone too far, crossed too many lines, and now I'm going to pay the price. I drive back to the house, my mind racing. I need to figure out my next move, to prepare for what's coming. But when I get there, I see the police cars parked outside, their lights flashing in the darkness. My heart stops. This is it. It's all over. I pull into the driveway, my hands shaking. The officers are waiting for me, their expressions grim. One of them steps forward as I get out of the car, his hand resting on his gun. Mr. Reynolds, we need to talk, he says, his voice steady, authoritative. I nod, too numb to protest, too exhausted to care. They lead me inside, and I see my wife sitting on the couch, her face pale, her eyes wide with fear. She looks at me, and I see the guilt, the regret, the fear. But there's something else too. Relief. She's finally free of me. The officers ask me questions, their voices blending together in a blur. I answer mechanically, my mind somewhere else, already resigned to my fate. I can see the pieces falling into place, the consequences of my actions finally catching up to me. They cuff me, reading me my rights, but I barely hear them. My mind is a haze, a swirling vortex of regret and anger. I thought I was in control, that I could handle this, but I was wrong, so wrong. As they lead me out of the house, I catch one last glimpse of my wife. She's crying, her hands covering her face. I should feel something. Anger, sadness, regret. But all I feel is emptiness. They put me in the back of the squad car, the door slamming shut behind me. The darkness outside the window mirrors the darkness inside me, the void that's been growing ever since this nightmare began. And as the car pulls away, taking me away from the life I've destroyed, I realize that I'm finally alone. Truly, completely alone. I thought revenge would bring me peace, that it would fill the emptiness inside me, but all it's done is hollow me out even more, leaving nothing but a shell of the man I used to be. The car drives on, the lights of the city fading into the distance. I close my eyes, letting the darkness consume me. There's no going back now, no redemption, no second chances. Only the cold, hard truth of what I've become. And as the car speeds through the night, I know that the worst is yet to come. The law is closing in, and there's no escape. My actions have consequences, and I'm about to face them head on. But the thought doesn't scare me anymore. I'm too far gone for fear. I've lost everything. My wife, my son, my freedom. And in the end, I realize that revenge hasn't brought me peace. It's only left me hollow, a shell of the man I once was. The darkness closes in, suffocating, and I welcome it. I'm done fighting, done trying to make sense of the mess I've made. I'm ready to face the consequences, to pay the price for my sins. Because in the end, this is the only way it could have ended. The only path left for a man who's lost everything, and who has nothing left to lose. Sitting in the holding cell, I'm left with nothing but my thoughts. The stark walls seem to close in on me, suffocating, yet I don't move. I can't. My body's exhausted, drained of everything: anger, fear, even regret. The events of the past weeks replay in my mind like a broken record, each scene sharper, more painful than the last. I can't escape it. There's no reprieve, no moment of peace. This is my reality now, my reckoning. The final confrontation wasn't with the lover, my wife, or even the law. It was with myself, and I lost. I realize that now. All the lines I crossed, the boundaries I shattered, they've led me here to this cold, empty cell. I became someone I didn't recognize, someone I never wanted to be. And now I'm paying the price. The door clangs open, jolting me from my thoughts. A guard steps in, his face expressionless as he motions for me to stand. "It's time," he says, his voice flat, devoid of emotion. I nod, rising slowly, my body stiff from the hours of sitting, the weight of my actions pressing down on me like a physical force. As I'm led down the narrow hallway, the fluorescent lights flickering overhead, I can't help but wonder how it all came to this, how I let myself fall so far, so fast. The courtroom is a sterile, lifeless place, filled with the scent of old wood and dust. I'm escorted to the defendant's table, my attorney already seated beside me, flipping through pages of notes with a determined look on his face. He's been trying to build a defense, but we both know it's futile. The evidence against me is overwhelming, and my actions have left no room for doubt. I'm guilty, and we both know it. The judge enters, and the room falls silent. The tension is palpable, a heavy, suffocating presence that makes it hard to breathe. I sit there staring straight ahead, refusing to look at the gallery. I know who's there. My wife, her face pale and drawn, her eyes hollow. My son sitting beside her, his small hands clutched in hers. I can't bear to see the pain in their eyes, the disappointment, the betrayal. I've already destroyed everything that mattered. I don't need to see the evidence of it in their faces. The trial begins, the prosecutor laying out the case against me in cold, clinical terms. The lover's death, the destroyed evidence, the calculated steps I took to cover my tracks. It's all there, laid bare for everyone to see. There's no hiding from it, no denying the truth. I did those things. I crossed those lines, and now I'm facing the consequences. My attorney tries to paint a different picture, one of a man pushed to the brink, driven by betrayal and desperation. He talks about my love for my family, my desire to protect them, to keep them safe. But his words ring hollow, even to me. The truth is, I lost sight of what mattered. I let the darkness consume me, and in the end, I became the very thing I was fighting against. As the trial drags on, I feel myself slipping further into the void. The words being spoken around me fade into a dull hum, the faces in the courtroom blurring together. I'm no longer really there, no longer part of the world. I'm just a hollow shell, waiting for the inevitable verdict. When the time comes for me to speak, to offer my defense, I stand, my legs trembling, my mouth dry. I look at the judge, at the jury, at my wife and son, and I see the toll this has taken on all of them. My actions have rippled out, causing pain and suffering that I can never undo. And in that moment, I know what I have to say. I'm guilty, I say, my voice steady despite the turmoil inside me. I've done terrible things, things I never thought I was capable of. I let my anger, my need for revenge, consume me. I lost sight of what mattered most, my family, my son. And for that, I'm truly sorry. The courtroom is silent, the weight of my confession hanging heavy in the air. I look at my wife, at the tears streaming down her face, and I feel a deep, aching sorrow. Not for myself, but for what I've done to her, to our son. I've destroyed everything we had, everything we could have been, and there's no going back. The judge sentences me to prison, his words a blur as I'm led away. The clinking of the handcuffs, the cold steel against my wrists, it all feels distant, like it's happening to someone else, but it's not. This is my life now, my reality, and there's no escape. In prison, the days blur together, a monotonous routine of gray walls and empty hours. I try to keep to myself, avoiding the other inmates, the violence, the darkness that permeates this place. But the real battle is inside me, a constant struggle to come to terms with what I've done, with the man I've become. I spend hours in my cell, staring at the walls, replaying the events that led me here. The affair, the betrayal, the murder, it's all there, haunting me, refusing to let go. I try to make sense of it, to find some meaning, some lesson in the wreckage of my life. But all I find is emptiness. The only thing that keeps me going is the thought of my son. I write him letters, trying to explain, to make amends in some small way. I tell him I'm sorry, that I never wanted to hurt him, that I love him more than anything in this world. But I know my words are just that, words. They can't undo the damage I've done, the pain I've caused, but it's all I have left, and I cling to it like a lifeline. Months pass, and the world outside moves on. My wife divorces me, cutting the last thread that connected us. My son grows up without me, his letters becoming fewer, his words more distant, and I'm left here, alone, a prisoner not just of these walls, but of my own mind. The final confrontation isn't with the lover, my wife, or even the law. It's with myself, and it's the hardest battle I've ever fought. I'm forced to face the choices I've made, the lines I've crossed, and the person I've become. There's no escaping it, no hiding from the truth. And as the days turn into weeks, the weeks into months, I realize that this is my reckoning. I try to rebuild, to find some semblance of peace in this dark place. I keep to myself, focusing on my work in the prison workshop, the routine giving me something to hold on to, something to keep the darkness at bay. But the scars run deep, and no matter how hard I try, I can't escape the guilt, the regret, the overwhelming sense of loss. I think about my son, about the man he's becoming without me. I wonder if he'll ever forgive me, if he'll ever understand why I did what I did. But deep down, I know that's too much to ask. I failed him, failed as a father, as a husband, as a man. And that failure haunts me every day. Just when I think I've reached the end, that there's nothing left for me but this endless cycle of regret, something changes. A letter arrives unexpected from my son. It's short, just a few lines, but it's enough to shake me to my core. "I'm coming to see you," he writes. "We need to talk." Those words, simple as they are, reignite something in me, something I thought was long dead. Hope. It's a small spark, fragile and tentative, but it's there. And for the first time in months, I feel something other than despair. The day of his visit arrives, and I'm a bundle of nerves, pacing my cell, my mind racing with what I'll say, how I'll explain. But when I see him standing there on the other side of the glass, all my rehearsed words disappear. He's older, taller, his face more serious, more mature. And in that moment, I see the man he's becoming, the man I've missed out on watching him become. We talk, awkward at first, the distance between us palpable. But as the minutes pass, the conversation starts to flow, the words coming easier, the tension easing. He asks about the past, about what happened, and I tell him the truth. All of it, the affair, the anger, the murder. I don't sugarcoat it, don't try to make excuses. I tell him I was wrong, that I let my rage consume me, that I lost sight of what mattered. And when I'm done, when all the words have been said, he just looks at me, his eyes filled with something I can't quite place. "I don't know if I can forgive you," he says, his voice steady, "but I'm willing to try." Those words, more than anything, give me the strength I've been searching for. It's not forgiveness, not yet, but it's a start. And for the first time in a long time, I feel like maybe, just maybe, there's a chance for redemption. As I watch him leave, I know that the road ahead won't be easy. There's still a long way. I sit alone in my cell, the gray walls closing in around me. The past few months have been a relentless cycle of self-reflection and despair, each day a reminder of the man I've become. The man who lost everything, because he couldn't let go of his anger, his need for revenge. The man who destroyed his family in a misguided attempt to protect it. But as I look back on it all, I know one thing for certain. The man I was when this all began is gone. He's been replaced by someone harder, someone who's seen the darkest parts of himself and survived. It's a bitter realization, but it's also a necessary one. I can't go back to who I was, and I don't want to. That person was weak, blind to the cracks in his own life until it was too late. Now I'm different. I'm stronger, but also more broken. The letters from my son have become the only light in this dark place. They started as sporadic, short notes, polite but distant. But over time, they've grown longer, more personal. He's trying to understand, trying to find some way to reconcile the father he knew with the man I've become. And I'm doing the same. Each letter I write back is an attempt to explain, to make sense of the choices I made, and to ask for his forgiveness, something I'm not sure I deserve. I tell him everything. I lay bare my soul, my regrets, my guilt. I don't hide the truth anymore. Don't try to justify my actions. I let him see the man I am now, not the man I pretended to be. And in doing so, I hope to rebuild some semblance of a relationship with him, to salvage what little remains of our bond. But it's not just my son who I'm trying to make amends with. I'm also trying to come to terms with myself. The days are long, the nights even longer, and there's nothing to distract me from the memories that haunt me. The faces of those I've hurt, the lives I've shattered, they're always there, just beyond the edge of sleep. I've tried to rebuild some sense of normalcy in here, to find a routine that keeps me grounded. But it's hard when every day is a reminder of what I've lost. And yet, despite it all, there's a glimmer of hope. It's small, almost imperceptible, but it's there. It's in the letters from my son, in the way he's slowly opening up to me again. It's in the visits we have, rare as they are, where I can see the man he's becoming, a man who, despite everything, still has a chance to be better than I ever was. That thought keeps me going, keeps me from sinking too far into the darkness. I know the road ahead won't be easy. I've made too many mistakes, crossed too many lines to think that redemption will come quickly or easily, but I'm willing to fight for it. I'm willing to do whatever it takes to rebuild some semblance of a life, even if it's one lived behind bars. I've accepted that this is my fate, that these walls will likely be where I spend the rest of my days, but that doesn't mean I have to let the darkness consume me. As I walk the yard, the cold wind biting at my skin, I think about the future. It's uncertain, a blank slate that I'm both terrified and eager to fill. There's so much I don't know, so much I can't control. But there's one thing I'm sure of. I'm not the same man I was. And that's both terrifying and liberating. The man who started this journey was driven by anger, by a need to control, to protect what he thought was his. But that man is gone. In his place is someone who's learned, the hard way, that control is an illusion, that the only thing we can truly control is ourselves. I've lost everything that mattered, my wife, my freedom, the life I thought I was protecting. But in losing it all, I've gained something else. I've gained a clarity, a sense of purpose that I never had before. I know who I am now, and I know what I need to do. I need to rebuild, to make amends, to find a way to live with the choices I've made. It won't be easy. It might not even be possible. But I have to try. For my son, for myself. I have to believe that there's still something worth fighting for, even if it's just the chance to be a better man than I was. As I walk back to my cell, the sun setting behind the walls, casting long shadows across the yard, I feel a strange sense of peace. It's not the peace that comes from forgetting or from absolution. It's the peace that comes from acceptance, from knowing that I've faced my demons and survived. I'm not whole. I never will be. But I'm still here, still standing. And that's something. I don't know what the future holds. I don't know if I'll ever find redemption, if I'll ever truly make amends for the things I've done. But I do know one thing. I'm not the same man I used to be. And that's both terrifying and liberating.